This is part 3 of What's the Deal with Jephthah, the Gilead. We're continuing now with a critical look at Jephthah's thoughts, his actions, and his beliefs. So Jephthah's drive to fulfill his vow, well, it's troublesome. He was dead set on fulfilling this vow. But as we discussed earlier, a vow is a contract between two or more parties. So there's an issue he could have considered. The contract wasn't valid. God didn't agree to this, and he most certainly didn't act because of it. So that would make the entire contract unenforceable. Jephthah might have simply walked away from this non-agreement. Still, if God felt that breaking this vow required a measure of justice, well, he might have then acted against Jephthah. But if God decided to act in the name of justice, well, it would fall upon the one that created this mess in the first place, Jephthah himself. Certainly not his daughter. So exactly what does the Word tell us about the nature of Yahweh? Among other things, it tells us that our God is not a punishing God, that he's loving and merciful. In Psalm 145:8, we read, "The Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and rich in love." So not only won't Jephthah consider the faulty nature of his vow, well, Jephthah never even considers God's mercy. Instead of honoring God and being respectful to Yahweh, he makes a feeble attempt to barter for God's favor. And now he's managed to bring down God's wrath. Now you may be thinking, what? No, wait. I don't see God responding at all. Well, let me explain. You see, more often than not, God's wrath consists of merely allowing us to exercise our own free will. Should you decide to abandon God's path and follow your own path, well, it's unlikely that God will intervene. And most assuredly, he will allow you to suffer the consequences of your decisions. God doesn't have to invoke his personal wrath, because let's face it, we are all well-versed and well-practiced in causing our own problems that come with plenty of pain and destruction. You know, all those bad things that happen when we decide to take the reins and tell God, hey, I've got this. Okay, let's finish up with this tale of Jephthah, because there are other deep ramifications for us to consider. Continuing now with Judges 11:36. And she said to him, "My father, you have opened your mouth to the Lord. Do to me according to what has come out of your mouth, now that the Lord has avenged you on your enemies, the Ammonites." Then she said to her father, "Let this thing be done for me. Leave me alone for 2 months, that I may go up and down on the mountains and weep, for I will never marry, me and my companions." And so he said, "Go." Then he sent her away for 2 months, and she departed, she and her companions, and they wept for her because she would never marry on that mountain. And at the end of 2 months, she returned to her father, who did with her according to his vow. She had never known a man, and it became in Israel that the daughters of Israel went year by year to lament the daughter of Jephthah, the Gilead, 4 days in the year. Now, when we first looked into this story of Jephthah, I made mention that he was among the names of the Bible's most faithful heroes. Jephthah, not like Samson, who was not what you would call a devout follower of Yahweh. So why then is he acknowledged for his faith? Well, let's spend a moment reading Ecclesiastes 5:1-7. Guard your steps when you go to the house of God. Go near to listen, rather than offer the sacrifice of fools who do not know what they do wrong. Do not be quick with your mouth. Do not be hasty in your heart to utter anything before God. God is in heaven and you are on earth. So let your words be few. A dream comes when there are many cares, and many words mark the speech of a fool. When you make a vow to God, do not delay in fulfilling it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it. Do not let your mouth lead you into sin, and do not protest to the temple messenger, "Well, my vow was a mistake." Why should God be angry at what you say and destroy the work of your hands? Much dreaming and many words are meaningless. Therefore fear God. So consider this, while Jephthah's words were foolish, rushed, and not well thought out, and two, that fulfillment required actions that God found abhorrent. Well, heck, it was even abhorrent to Jephthah. Nevertheless, he fulfilled his awful vow because it was a vow to the Lord. So right, wrong, or indifferent, that was a tremendous act of faith. This is a good place to stop part 3 of What's the Deal with Jephthah the Gilead. Remember, we're all in this together, and I'm pulling for you. So until next week, may God bless you and yours. Keep you all safe.